a guy on this forum whose name I will never forget. It was Lester7, and he was an older guy. After one of my reviews, he said, "Sheep, you're a star." And then ever since then, I just signed my post Sheepstar. Cars have always been a huge hobby of mine too. So you combine audio to get headspace, photography to take pictures of the products you're reviewing, car detailing, and like they sort of just amalgamated together. So yeah, I started like reviewing detailing products in like 2013. I, as an enthusiast, would love to see the behind the scenes. I'd love, as much as you say how the sausage is made, everyone still watches a train wreck, man. Haters and fanboys are both bad. They both hurt channels just in different ways. If you've got people who are super fans to your channel, if people are super positive and saying like, "You're the best, you're doing everything right," then I'm not going to look at what I can improve. And same thing with a hater, like they're going out, attacking channels in the name of a different channel. What if that channel doesn't want that? Now it looks like the people who support you are these goons that go around and attack people, and then people will think, your channel is like, oh, you just got these people going around attacking everyone.
Interviewing one of my haters, Brian from Sheepstar. Welcome to the podcast. I will say you were a hater, and then I refunded your money, and you became less of a hater. So maybe it's a money thing. All kidding aside,
I wasn't a hater. I was just not super impressed. You handled it how it should be handled. And I said in the follow-up, I was like, hey, I had an issue. We sorted it out. He refunded me. I'm like, you can't, in this day and age, you can't ask for more than that. So,
yeah, I mean, that's
no bad blood.
Not at all.
No ill feelings.
And I was just teasing you. No, I think that's kind of going to be the theme that we talk about in these things that we talk about today, is that like, me personally, and I shared this in a recent podcast that I did, like set out to start my own brand. And this is not going to be a big commercial for Jimbo's Detailing either, but just to kind of lay the foundation of, I think what we're going to talk about today is like, I saw how the sausage was made and it's bad. Right. And so part of what my vision for my brand was to do it differently. And so when I started to get people that were not having, ideal results or results that I was having, I set out to rectify that. Right. And you happen to be one of those people that you're like, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. And I'm like, well, okay, well, I have a lifetime guarantee on my products, right? Like, I don't want you to have the product on your shelf if you don't like it. Like, and part of it is I'll just use it. Right. But, before we get into more of that, why don't we lay the foundation of who you are, kind of what you've been doing, especially on YouTube, and kind of what you're seeing and what the landscape is like, and kind of, all that fun stuff.
Well, first things first, elephant in the room. I am the guy who has the worst channel name for SEO you could probably imagine. If someone said, hey, did you lose a bet and you had to make your channel that name, like, it's very believable.
Why the name then?
So the origin of why I'm on YouTube is basically the culmination of like 4 different hobbies, all sort of intertwining over time. It started with home audio gear, audio equipment. I actually went to school for audio engineering, which is not what I do for a living. It was a path that I was curious about, and I come from a very musical family, so I was always music and like speakers and things. Like I joined an audio forum in like 2005, and that was like my first sort of forum experience. And that besides being able to get better at recording audio for YouTube, which it helped with, because the early days were rough, but it taught me all of the lessons when it came to bias, when it came to like snake oil type products, because snake oil is huge in the audio world. There's like people selling cables that are $1,000 a foot, and someone plugs it in, they're like, oh wow, this is amazing, it transformed my system. And then people will go and measure the difference between the cables as far as like what you can measure for power, and they're like, it didn't make a difference at all. And
wow, it's like wine, huh?
Wine, taste is far more subjective than like
things. Hearing.
Hearing, there is everyone's ears are different, so there is deviations, and a lot of people who aren't into audio don't know, but there's a certain volume level you're supposed to listen to music at. It's 85 decibels, because that's where the human ear hears it the flattest. So in a
Oh,
recording studio, you mix at 85 decibels because that's the best you'll get from your ears. Your ears don't hear as well as microphones. So there's a lot of things that people don't understand about human perception when, especially in detailing, like gloss meters, people go off like, oh, like this one's one gloss unit higher. I'm like, you trained eye can't see less than 5. So
I
a
had
lay
a
person's probably not going to pick it up.
I had a so I was trying to, not to cut you off at all,
No,
but
it's a
with gloss
tangent show.
meters, it is the tangent show.
I've watched all your recent stuff, man.
um, I used to use a gloss meter, not a lot, but I used to use a gloss meter because when I was doing cheap versus expensive, that's kind of the feedback I was getting from people was like, oh, you should put a gloss meter on that, right?
Yeah.
And so I started using it, but then I was talking to Mike he's the chemist for Turtle Wax, and he's like pointed all the holes in a gloss meter, right? Yeah. And he's like, it's useless. Yeah. Right. He basically was like, it's totally useless.
You need like perfect replicable conditions. You have to measure the exact same spot. So you need like laser pointer. Like there's so many things that it's fun. Like, don't get me wrong, it's fun. And a lot of things about detailing, it's like the fun can justify everything else, right?
Sure.
But there's certain things where people will go to that degree, and it's like, man, you're probably not seeing it. And the other part of like the audio thing, like that it taught me was about biasing, and that's where I learned about blind tests, where people set up speakers behind an acoustic wall. They don't tell you which one's playing. You just all listen to them, and then you pick out the one you like the most. And people will go in there like, oh, I'm a Klipsch guy, or I'm a, whatever brand it may be. And they find out that they don't like the brand that they came in there cheering for, just because they removed the cost, the branding, like, oh, this one's got more drivers in it, so it must be better. It's like, that's not always the case. Like, there's a whole bunch of factors that go into it, and there's preference. I prefer speakers that are not super trebly. They call it warmer. It's basically, there's certain dips within the higher frequency range, and it's less fatiguing to me. That's my preference. But other people don't like it, because when you take out some of that information, they actually become less detailed. But my ears are really sensitive to it, and I don't like it. So that's my preference. That doesn't mean I'm right, and doesn't mean anyone else is wrong.
Sure.
And that's a huge thing that a lot of people need to discover, and a lot of people need to sort of keep in the back of their mind, that just because it's your preference, and like when I test products, I'm like, this is my environment, this is my water, this is my car, my paint, my situation. I'll share it with you and show you what I'm getting. And if you're getting different results, fly at it. Like, keep going, man. Like, if you find a good product that works for you, you're done looking, really. Like, you've got your system. And and consumers like to try things more than I think professionals would ever do. But and like, I'm not a professional detailer, so that sort of steers my content as well, right? Like, I won't make videos telling people how to clean a car, because I don't do that for a living. I would kind of be stepping on toes and almost disrespectful to an actual working detailer to try and tell people how to clean a car. There's certain things like,
there's a lot of people that do that though, right? They tell people how to clean a car, and they've never owned a detailing business, or they claim to have been detailing for a long time, but they so you'd be in good company.
I would judge a professional detailer is, I can go to a website, find out how much you charge, and book you. Yeah. If I can't do that, I don't know how you can be a professional detailer. Because if you're not accessible through the web, how are you accessible? Yeah. Word of mouth, not really a good way to go.
Right.
So basically the thing started in audio, and that's where I use the screen name Sheep. And I liked reading all the reviews and seeing all the tests they would do, like measuring speakers, and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, hey, why don't I, try writing my own reviews for the gear that I had? And back then I had like no money to get, like, audio is an old rich person's game. Like, you need capital to get really into it.
To celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Jimbo's detailing product line, I'm giving everything away. So you get this super soaper, all dressed up, tough as shell, complete cabin cleaner, pure magic cleaner, the Gloss Boss, towels, everything completely for free. It's free to enter, it's free to win, and there's multiple ways that you can get tons and tons of entries. So if you go to jimbosdetailing.com/giveaway, I'll have all the information there. And again, thank you for all the support over the past year. None of this would be available without you. And so to give back, I'm giving everything away.
Even for like, anyone can get a really good sounding stereo for not that much money, but there's things that are really interesting and cool that are just, $10,000 for a pair of speakers. Like diminishing returns, yes, but still interesting and cool, and that's what people want to read about.
Sure.
So
Right. No one cares about the $50 cable. They want to hear about the $1,000 cable, right? Or
yeah,
$1,000 upfoot cable.
the place I was mostly out of that. So like there wasn't a ton of that, but there was a lot of brand wars and stuff like that would go on. It was pretty, they kept it under locks, but so I started writing reviews of the gear I had, and like they were pretty long. And a hobby, another hobby that came in was photography. So I'm a huge photographer. I made the foolish choice, future me is saying, by choosing Nikon and shooting Nikon DSLRs, because they have really bad video. They never got good video into Nikon DSLRs, so I could never leverage all of my gear to film.
You just like picking expensive hobbies, huh?
Oh, it gets worse. Should see my
detailing.
You should see my barbecue setup.
I used to work for a guy who did barbecues, and then he got into barbecue manufacturing. And when I stopped washing his cars, he was setting up a whole manufacturing plant to make parts for barbecue stuff. It was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that there was like thousands of dollar grills. I thought the extent of grills were like at Home Depot.
Like,
and he was no.
I'm not crazy considering I live in a townhouse. I can't have charcoal. I can't have solid fuel. But I've got a pellet grill, a separate smoker, and a propane in like a 10 by 5 foot area.
It's like your old patio.
It's literally the patios for the barbecues.
I will say though, like, I'm not a barbecue connoisseur at all, but my wife bought me a Kamado Joe a couple years ago, and man, a charcoal grill, though it takes a lot more work to like get it going, I feel like, than propane, obviously. I'm not a great cook, and I've never messed up anything that I've cooked on that Kamado Joe. Like I've never dried out chicken.
Flavor,
oh my, it is so good. I will never go back to propane, because it's just like charcoal is, man, I made pizza on that thing. It's like, and I'm not into it at all. And I'm like, this is amazing. It's so forgiving.
Makes you feel like a superhero, right?
Like,
like, I'm the best thing ever. Look how Gordon Ramsay, I'm going to take you now.
Totally.
Yeah.
So Sheepstar though. So Sheep because it was your form name, and then Star because you were going to start reviewing it. Is that what it was? Or
no, it was way stupider than that. It was a guy on this forum whose name I will never forget. It was Lester7, and he was an older guy.
Lester? That's an even worse name.
Yeah. And he never explained the reasoning behind it. And everyone had their theories. He was he was nice, like in his posts and stuff. But he said, after one of my reviews, he said, "Sheep, you're a star." And then ever since then, I just signed my post Sheepstar. And then I went to about 2000, late 2000s, before 2010. That's when I started reading all the detailing forums, and I always stuck with detailingworld.co.uk, the UK one, because they were way ahead of the game when it came to like foam cannons and all this other stuff. And there's a lot of professional shops that would post like write-ups of cars they were detailing. And I just love reading about it and seeing it. And so that's where I started reviewing detailing products, because cars have always been a huge hobby of mine too. So you combine audio to get the headspace, you combine photography to take pictures of the products you're reviewing and like pictures of stuff. Then you combine car detailing, and like they sort of just amalgamated together. And then computers is another hobby of mine. Now my computer is severely lacking. I've stopped putting money into it for quite a while, but having the computer, camera, all that stuff tied together. So yeah, I started like reviewing detailing products in like 2013, but I was doing all of it on a forum. And then it went pretty good. My claim to fame would have been a test where everyone on the boards was debating this paste wax showdown between like Colonite 476S, Finish Care 1000P, and Built Hamber Finish Wax. That was the three. Everyone was arguing whose was best, and I was like, I'll test it. I couldn't get Finish Wax at the time. They weren't in Canada. Built Hammer wasn't in Canada. So someone's like, oh, I got a sample pot. I'll mail it to you. So they mailed it to me, and I put it on the hood of my car and ran this test for like 4 months, just washing it, every once in a while. And the thing like blew up. The post got really popular. And then I was like, hey, I could keep doing this. And So I stuck with doing it on forums for quite a long time, and then forums sort of died off. They weren't nearly what they used to be. So
Are
I was
people
like,
posting in forums anymore? Is that like a thing? Are they still
yeah,
posting there? Or?
a couple of my videos just popped up over there recently because I used to post there quite a bit. I had I think when I left there, it was like 1,500 posts or something like that. But
Got it. Wow.
but like the audio forum, I had almost 10,000 posts. So I was very active on there for a lot longer amount of time too.
Sure.
I lurked a lot on the detailing one before I started doing anything. But yeah, they were still posting, but I found I was trying to take pictures of water behavior. So when you're filming it, you can see it moving off the panel. And I was like, oh man, I gotta try and show which one of these is more hydrophobic with a photograph. And eventually I was like, this doesn't work. So I started taking video clips and putting them on YouTube and then inserting the video into the review. But then I saw that, hey, I have a bunch of subscribers now on YouTube, and it's probably a lot of the people from the forum. And then the view counts on those videos were starting to go up because Turtle Wax was super popular at the time when I was doing this. I was like, oh, maybe I should just do the whole video on YouTube and put it onto the forum. And back then, and I think still now, they don't really like people to be a YouTuber and cross post onto all the forums. They're like, hey, you're just planting a video and then screwing off. Like, don't do that. They want you to participate and chat and answer questions more, I guess. And I didn't do
who
it.
Has time for that? That's what I always think. It's like I've tried to post my videos.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my. I think back. I mean, it's funny to talk about and think about now of but some of those write-ups in the forums are like so long and so many pictures, and it's just like it seems like such an antiquated way to discuss something or to show something, but the forums were massive back in the day. That was huge. How you got your information, and scrolling and reading and scrolling and reading. And kind of in some ways it's a bummer that they're not as popular anymore, because I was just talking to someone unrelated today, but he was talking about the internet and how you could learn how to do anything on the internet. And I'm like, yeah, but the problem is becoming there's so much information, you don't know who's wrong and who's right.
Yeah.
So at least the forums you can kind of get checked almost right away, right? And then if you were saying some outlandish thing, it just wouldn't really go anywhere, and you would kind of get buried, But on YouTube, it's a popular video about anything could happen, and it's like, geez, that's bad information.
It seems like there's far less echo chamber on forums.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
That push. Yeah, we're all together. We're doing this,
because that's what we're starting to see on the YouTube space of that's a good way of putting it. These echo chambers of groups of people that are putting out all the same information. I had a term for it. I called it a circle jerk, but there seems to be that happening because that's what it is, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a circular process for sure.
And so, but it definitely seems like that's becoming more prevalent on YouTube, right?
Yeah, and I mean, part of the reason why I don't want to just put how-to videos out again, I do respect when someone is a professional. There's aspects of that profession that a non-working person that does the same thing just doesn't experience. Professional detailers have bad days. They usually always have some part of their day, something's not perfect. When you're working at home and you're working on your car and you're working on your own time, you wanted to be there and you wanted to do that, right? I set aside this day because I wanted to wash my car. Professional detailers don't always want to wash the car, but they're like, well, I need to get paid. I need to make money. And the way they do it and the way the systems they would use, I would not be trying a bunch of 16-ounce bottles of products if I were a professional detailer. I'd lock down a system, buy the biggest concentrated bulk sizes I could get, and then dread the day that I had to repurchase products. Because that's for an enthusiast, I think you're really excited to buy something, you're really excited to try something, and a professional detailer is just looking at the bill, right? And maybe not all of them are that way. Again, I won't speak for them, but that's a big aspect to why it's different. And that's sort of the leverage my channel has, is that I am not a professional detailer. It is a con, it is a negative that experience and perspective will be different from them. But I'm testing out products as a consumer, and the products I'm testing are for consumers. First and foremost, they are for consumers. A lot of them can be used in industry as well. But there's a lot of them that are just not designed that way, either in the quantities that they can come in, or concentrations or price points, right? Like, the last thing a shop wants to do is have to keep buying small quantities of stuff. They want to be able to learn what their turn rate is, how often they need to restock, and sort of work within a system. So that's definitely one of the things that differs between like consumer YouTube style detailing type videos versus professional. And I think the content as well. Like, if you're a professional detailer, I would not be promoting anything above myself. Like, the video would be centered around me and my abilities in my business, maybe feature a product here and there. And I'm sure, you would know, like in your industry, like products, brands would, they would want to incentivize people to use their products. You get wholesale pricing, you get truck service, like that kind of stuff. So they're going to stick in a system for a bunch of reasons besides just the product's performance. They're going to be like, well, I can get it easily. It's reliable service. The product performs consistently. It may not be the best thing ever, but it fits the bill and it fits the expectations I've set out for my detail, which is something else that a lot of people don't really think about. It's like, you got to manage the expectations of like products and, what people are doing with them. Like,
but that gets hard, right? Because you want to have these like crazy like even detailers too with their customers, right? I was just having a conversation with the potential customer before we got on here, and he's asking, "Oh, do you do classic cars?" And I'm like, I don't love doing classics. Like, yeah, I got this, convertible bug, and it got, it was restored, but it's restored in this basically single stage paint, and it's got some chips and blah blah. Maybe we can make it look a little nicer. And I'm like, I immediately go into setting the expectation, because I'm like, it's not a repaint. I'm not repainting it. Right. And so, but the hard part is you want the job, or if you need the job, right? And the same thing is true with product brand. Like, they want to sell product. They want to move their, they want to launch. They want to do that. So we saw it with Ceramic Pro, right? Like, all these outlandish claims, and maybe it works long term, maybe it doesn't. But I always think like, man, it really sets you up for a tough road, know?
Yeah, and it's like, I think the years of durability that's prevalent in every single ceramic coating. I'd rather just like some industry standard wash test of like, it survived X amount of washes in this test, and that's the like unified metric that they measure.
But Cerakote tried to do that, right? With their version 1, it lasts 500 washes, and even that, it's like, but they washed it 500 times in a row, right?
It's still
like
environmental wear between a wash.
Yeah, so like I think that's what's tricky, that no one's been able to really like dial in, because I don't think there is like a way to do it of like, your environment in Canada is probably much different than my environment in Southern California. And then let alone stuff that could happen. It's like they're dealing with wildfires in LA, which is 30 miles from me, but I can't help but think like, what about all that soot and ash in the air? Like, is that damaging my protection on my car? Probably, right? But like,
pollen's huge too. Pollen is really hard on products.
So I think that's like difficult. It's difficult as the brand owner to set expectations, right? And then combine that with user experience, too, of like, man, it's tricky.
Yeah,
very tricky.
It is. And like, that doesn't mean there's like, I don't judge companies on some of the claims on a label, as long as they're, within a reasonable margin.
Sure.
Honestly, the way people should look at products, from my perspective at least, is what the product's supposed to do, how much it costs, and how the company handles anything that goes bad. Those are probably the three things that should be the most important, in my opinion. Like, if a company stands behind their product, if something's wrong, that's huge. That's a big thing that motivates who I deal with and what I want to do. And like, the products I use, like testing videos, I'm buying them mainly because they're popular, or like, I've had people asking me to get bead coat in, and I just put the video up last night. And like, I had quite a few people requesting it for a few months. So there's definitely, where I go is usually dictated by what's going on within YouTube's detailing sort of community, like what products and things are popular. But I don't test everything. Like, I'm not going to test washes and rinseless washes for the most part, just because I can't really convey what is going on through a camera. Like, how do you tell someone this one's slicker without it being totally subjective? Like, yes, you could maybe weight up things and pull them with a, a measuring device, like some people do.
That could be subjective too, right? That could
the
be
way you pull it's not consistent every single time.
This is
you might change it. There's so
this
many
is
things.
kind of the corner I got stuck in, is like it could be really subjective with stuff. And that's actually to defend torture tests, though I know they're not realistic.
No.
But what I was going after is at least it's consistent.
Yeah.
Right. So at least we always try an iron remover, always try the same, like, so
it is consistent. I just use Built-Hammer Autofoam. I just keep the one chemical.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, use whatever chemical you want. I know chemical resistance tests aren't indicative of, real world testing, but everyone's real world is different. So at least it brings
no perfect solution.
There's no perfect solution, right?
There's
so at least
perfect. Just
exactly
try to get close.
Yeah, exactly.
And still be like way off.
It'd still be way off, I think that's where like almost like a rubber band, it slings back to like, well, how easy was the product to use then, or what was the price, or what was the user experience, right? And I think that's why we've seen products like, or brands like Chemical Guys do so good, because at least when you sell 98% water, like the user experience is usually pretty good always.
You can drink it.
It's pretty hard to mess up when it's all water, right? And so I think a lot of people always go back to, well, at least it was easy to use, I'll just do another coat. And that's the one, I don't know if you see that in your comments, but that's one of the most common themes that like always enter my comments sometimes, like, well, it's easy to use, I'll just do another coat.
Yeah. And it's like, that's where the whole cost factor comes in. If something is easy to use, but you have to use it more often, it's a more expensive product in the long run, right? And it's one thing to look at initial purchase, but you have to, and this is where like a professional detailer would be paying attention to, is their long-term operating costs of using the products they use, right? And I think consumers don't have to be as strict on that as a professional would, but it is something you should keep in the back of your mind. Like, hey, I have to keep applying this every week to get that type of protection. There's probably something out there that's better. And if it's divided in its equal measure, then okay, well, what is your time worth? Because my time costs money, and when I'm at work, so you don't want to do that all the time at home, but you should also ask yourself, I want to do this, then my time doesn't cost much. But if I have to do it, then my time should cost more, and you should look into why and like where that's affecting you too. So it's a nuanced topic. It's very hard to put down one thing, but it's people should keep an open mind to all of the type of factors that could be at play, especially if you're watching a detailer or just a reviewer or what have you. This decision gets swayed by so many different factors.
Totally. So how is YouTube going for you? How has it kind of differed from the forums? Do you like it more than the forums? How's it been going?
Well, so when I started actually putting videos on YouTube, I wasn't in them. I shot my camera at my bench, and
you said you're like wax. What's his name? Wax mode, right?
Yeah,
I'm like wax mode.
Big inspiration, actually. I've talked to him.
He's super nice. He's super nice. Yeah. I don't know, is he even putting out videos anymore? I haven't looked in a long time. He doesn't even put out videos, huh?
I talked to him a few years ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, or something like that, on a forum through just a private message, and he's fine. I see he just burned out. He's just getting tired of doing it, I guess, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
It's been 2 years.
Yeah, he's been off the game for a while. But his style was definitely an influence. The other reason why I wasn't in my videos, besides the obvious, like being in front of the camera, and I actually had to buy this microphone that I'm using currently to do the first video that I appeared in, because I was like, this will not pick me up at all if I'm sitting away from the camera, and you'll hear his garage echo. So, but the other reason is that the channel was never about me. It's not me plus detailing products. I was just focusing on products. And that's sort of what I was doing at the forum. It was never about me either, right? So I was never in any of the pictures that I was putting up with the products. It was just products. So I didn't want to be in the videos. I had no interest in being in videos. But when I made this one video where I appeared, I made a statement in that video, and a statement of my personal opinion on the subject matter. And I was like, I can't make a statement like this and not be in the video. So that's why I decided that.
What do you remember what the statement was?
Oh yeah, very.
Do you want to say
everyone
it or
does.
no?
It was about brands. Sorry, it was about YouTube detailing channels that were product review channels like mine, turning into brands, but then continuing to review products or compare products. And it was in regards to when the video was my clean ceramic spray from Pan. And I was watching, because it took a lot longer for Canada to see to get the products versus the US. So a lot of people in the States got them and started putting some videos out. And I watched
Clean. Are you talking about Clean?
Yeah.
By Pan? Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
they got held up at the border apparently. So
got it.
I know that happens. I experienced it, but
yeah.
So yeah, it took a lot longer to get to Canada. So I was in my lead up to doing my video before I even got it. I was watching everybody's content, and I was like video after video after video where they were focused only on the product, and nobody seemed to be discussing this elephant in the room of like, hey man, you guys, cool, you got brands, you're doing your own thing, you're making your own chemicals, that's great. You got to put that stuff aside now. Like you can't have a brand and compete. And we all remember the controversy of 2024. So
you're saying just to be clear, so someone who's built a following being a reviewer of other products then creates their own product brand should no longer review other people's brands. This is your opinion. I'm just trying to reiterate.
This is my opinion.
Yeah. Should no longer review other brands. They should just talk about their own brand, right? And maybe do how-to videos, or like their channel has to now take a new direction, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying?
That's my take on it, because if you look at any other industry where brands are advertising their product, they are not showing competitors' products. They are keeping the screen time focused on themselves only, and that is really the smarter decision.
I agree with that. And being as someone that used to review products and then had their own brand, kind of being this exact person that you're talking about, it is difficult though to make that transition.
Oh yeah.
However, it's not easy. And you built a following one way and then you're kind of shifting the following. And I think it takes some time to like kind of figure out, get your footing.
Yeah.
I think some people may still struggle with that. But at the end of the day, it's like you have this following, and if you're in the video, people are probably more connected to you than anything else, or should be, right? So you shouldn't really want to talk. Like I don't really want to talk about any other brands anymore, right? Because I'm like, then I'm giving them free press, like and I went through a transition period of where I was trying to figure out what to do, but like. Now I'm like, I don't want to talk about anyone else's brand. I want the spotlight to be 100% on my brand,
In my opinion, that is the smart move, because again,
but it's hard. It's difficult.
It's very difficult, especially because a lot of like, Honda or someone, for example, didn't start as like part of, reviewing Toyotas.
Right.
They were always a car brand right from the get-go. Whereas in this YouTube world, it's different. It is a different situation, and people are growing into things. But it's like,
and I think they're scared to show the growth. I think that's what it all comes down to, is like people are embarrassed to show like, the beginning stages of something, when maybe I'm wrong, but I have a theory. Like if you show it, it not only kind of rallies the troops, but is going to make when you have success even better, and you're following even more loyal, because they're going to be like, I remember when he only had 2 orders, and now look at him. He's moving warehouses and has a bottling line and but we're so scared to show like that beginning stages. And honestly, manufacturing is very ugly. Like, that's
I'm pretty sure everyone in their job, there's something in the corner that's ugly.
Yes.
You don't show.
But that's the thing that is funny, is that I think more people are wanting to see the ugly. Totally. Like that is my opinion, and that's what I'm trying to do, is show more of the ugly.
That video you just put out where you're like I, as an enthusiast, would love to see the behind the scenes. I'd love, as much as you say how the sausage is made. Yeah. Everyone still watches a train wreck, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And like, I think personally, if someone shared the journey, first off, it means that you're a little more involved. Like it's just a better connection, I guess you could say. I mean, not everyone's going to feel that way, but I think it's really interesting. It'll be enlightening. It will there's stuff you can show that doesn't hurt you. That
Totally.
it gives that little bit of transparency that you can give, because obviously formulas and stuff are proprietary. But
yeah, but you don't need to show the form.
Nope.
And let's be very clear, because for some reason I was just talking with Tom with CSI, who I had on the show, you know, and like one thing that I think is very important to talk about formulas. Everyone puts formulas at like this very high level, like, oh my gosh, my formula, I got to protect my formulas at all costs.
Yeah.
Formulas are a dime a dozen. You could call a raw materials supplier and they will give you a formula for a ceramic spray, a tire shine, or whatever.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't know if that formula is good or not. Right.
Yes.
So a lot of the battle is being able to kind of tweak the formula.
Yeah.
Right. And having someone on your side that can tweak it. And maybe that final formula, that final formula is like needs to be kept in a safe, but like this blanket statement that like we own our formula. It's like whoop-de friggin' do. Like no one, you can find a formula. I bet Chat GPT, this would be a fun experiment. I wonder if Chat GPT could formulate a formula for tire shine.
I wouldn't know what goes into it, but I'll let your expert eyes tell us.
Let's see. I'm just gonna do it for fun. Let's see if it'll do it. It does. It'll tell you. It'll write you a formula right now for tire shine and the exact percentages. Wow. So you could do distilled water, dimethyl silicone emulsion, polydimethylsiloxane, emulsifier, which then it gives you an emulsifier, propylene glycol, preservative, fragrance, dye, all, you know, instructions on how to do it, how to use it. I have a formula for a tire shine. I have a formula. But the problem is no one talks about like the emulsion that you need, you know, like where you get that emulsion. You know, anyway, I had that epiphany the other day of like formulas are a dime a dozen, but you know.
Yeah. And I would imagine a big headache is testing and proving, right? Like
then you got to have someone who knows how to test it, right?
Then you got to get a formula. You got to make sure it's good. You got to, you know, figure out where its pros and cons are and advertise, you know,
what environment you want to put it in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
who's real world. Yeah, but that's not everyone's real world. Even in the harsh, like, and just because it's in the harsh environment, right, doesn't necessarily mean they could fail in the heat, right? So then, but then you got Florida heat, you got California heat, you got desert heat, you got Arizona heat, you got like, it's like, oh my gosh, like, you know,
you're trying to find that middle ground between
complication,
cost, and you know, results. Well, like you know, like Tom said, it's the triangle, right?
Yes.
It pretty much applies to everything. So yeah, it's the same thing there. You know, like, oh, this is the best thing ever, but it's $4,000 a bottle. Well, sorry, nobody's gonna buy it.
Right. So what happened with your most recent? I see it here. It's the hype array. What a great title. Colonite versus Armor Detail Supply ceramic sprays and detailers. Sorry, I haven't watched this video. Are they both spray detailers? What are they?
It's their ceramic spray sealants and their detailers that go with.
Got it.
So I looked at the two of them together because they both I ordered them at the same time. And like the Colonite B coat had a ton of requests, and then the Armor Detail Supply was I mean, it's just a really, like, a lot of people have really great things to say about the brand. So I was like, yeah, got to try it. But yeah, it was interesting. I put it on a test panel and left it for a week and then hit it with Built Hamburg. I didn't have any of my panels I use for testing like filling. I have that black gloss plastic panels from cars that
but at least you didn't use white, it looked like.
Yeah, I saw that white doesn't work very well. So
white doesn't work. Everyone tries to test on a white car, and it's like, I was telling my video guy today, because I'm gonna do some filming on something, and I'm like, we have to have a black car, and I gotta teach you, because you don't know, which you're not supposed to know. I gotta teach you how to show what we're talking about, because like I was watching some other videos. I'm going to do some videos on paint polishing, right? And I'm like, I'm watching these other videos, and when you read the comments, everyone talks about, I can't see what you're talking about.
Yeah. I made a video about like YouTube testing and like what is important and what isn't important, and like sort of my take on things. And like, if you're trying to show, if you're doing a demonstration, it has to get through the camera. It has to get to the person's eyes. Otherwise, I don't believe you. I'm sorry. You can polish this thing and do all this stuff, but if your lighting and camera angles don't show the before and after. They don't show that difference. It's word of like, I'll take your word for it maybe, but then, you know, that leads to, you know, all kinds of stuff. So my thing has always been like, yeah, my quality is nowhere near the quality of other channels out there. I film everything on a phone, and until recently I filmed and edited everything on my phone. I used Adobe Premiere Rush, and the mobile app works just fine, but I had some issues with my computer that I sorted out, so now it's more stable to actually edit video on. But yeah, I did everything on my phone, and it wasn't, you know, it's still not the best quality ever. But if I can get a light and show you the difference in swirling, the difference in, you know, filling or whatever, you know, hydrophobic's not that hard to film, obviously, but yeah, you got to convey, you got to show the results to people. Otherwise, what's the point of you doing the video?
So to summarize that video, what ended up happening? Was the call night good? Was the armor good? What happened?
I can't tell you what happened because there's a secret competitor that I left out until the end.
Oh, all right. You got to go watch this video.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go.
I do like doing blind tests because I want people to remove that bias, that it's not like a bad bias. It's just that preference you have, and just look truly at what's going on and be like, oh, cool. You know, like,
but it's hard too, right? Because like, so when you talk about that, like, we all have a bias towards brand. And I really saw this to give a different example. Like, so I sell a lot of private label chemicals, right? So I send out samples with no label and no brand behind it, right? And so these people have to use it how I tell them, and they have no like brand backing it. And it's so common even for these brand owners to like take a sample of something, and they will have like biased about it because they're blind to it, and then they want, oh, you know, okay, for example, like, oh, ceramic spray, and I send it to them in clear with no scent, right? Because I want them to just try the formula for what it is, and then we'll add color or whatever you want to it later. It's like no big deal. And they'll write back, oh, I want some like you know, I want more shine, right? And I'm like, oh crap, all right. So I tell them, hey, to get more shine, and I'll add a color to it too, right? Like, hey, what, that way we can knock two birds out with one stone. Like, what color are you thinking of? Blue. Okay, great. So I send it to them, keep the formula exact same, just make it blue. And they're like, oh, nailed it. This is perfect. And it's like,
that's awesome.
All I did was added color, you know, but
you like I used to, my first dog, my parents used to like put a little something in her food bowl. She'd get her kibble, and then they put like a blueberry or like something like that. And I was feeding her dinner, and I didn't know this, and they said, oh, you have to do something special. And I put the bowl down without like doing the extra steps physically, and the dog just looked at me like,
wouldn't do it.
Like, I'm not eating that. You didn't do the thing. And so I picked it up and I stirred it around with my finger, and I put it back down, and they ate it. And I was like, gotcha, no blueberries for you, you know. But yeah, like that's and like those biases and stuff, they can all lead to another topic that's going around lately, which is like haters. I think I've heard it mentioned so many times. And
I think people like having haters. They're like, oh, my haters are here.
Yeah,
it's like they like it.
And
I hate it.
There's something I learned like a week ago because of this is being thrown around, and I was like, I want to have an answer. So I asked a friend of mine who is like, they're not a psychologist, but they work in that industry. They have their own practice. And I said, hey, is there any correlation between haters and fanboys? And I said, like, is there anything that would suggest that if somebody is likely to be this, then they're also likely to be that? And they didn't say, like, there's no like solid correlation, but it's a phenomenon, and it's called an in-group bias, which means if you're in this group, the group itself becomes like its own little echo chamber of support. And anyone outside that group then gets a proportional negative, directed force. Like, you're very positive to this thing, then you're very negative equally to the other thing. And it's not an every single person sort of situation.
I like the Lakers, therefore I automatically hate the Boston Celtics.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, watching a game and the Boston Celtics just completely outplayed your team, would you say, yeah, they earned that, they did a good job? Or be like, oh, screw them, the ref's crooked, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's what a hater would do. And I'm not saying everyone out there is a hater. It's usually,
you're saying a hater would do that, right? Not that, because not everyone, just because I like the Lakers doesn't automatically mean I'm a Celtics hater. No. But if you are a Celtics hater, you're more likely to find that bias in the refs or whatever.
Enemy of my
right?
enemy is my friend. Right?
Got it. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
there's a correlation where it's like this phenomenon that's like, if you were to denounce haters, you technically, in a way, are also denouncing fanboys, because
Right.
they are one and the same in certain instances. Not every instance. I'm
Mhm.
not trying to
Mhm.
pick a fight with the internet here,
Right.
but
Not everyone, but yeah.
like
It's
those extreme people who are really negative on a
yes.
channel are probably also really positive towards your channel.
Yes. I
So
make this comparison, and not to bring up politics, but like I laugh sometimes with my parents because it's like, if you guys are extreme, for us, right wing, right? You're actually a lot closer to the left wing things that you hate so much than you think you are, because
yeah,
you're actually doing the same thing, just on the opposite side of the spectrum,
yeah,
right? So I
an
think
eye
that's a
for an
good way of
eye
putting it.
isn't
Yeah.
technically fair.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
balanced, but there's nuance there too, right?
Right.
So that's this whole thing going on, and my personal opinion on it is they're both bad. Haters and
Right.
fanboys are both bad. They both hurt channels, just in different ways. If you've
Yeah.
got people who are super fans to your channel, then say like my channel is pretty small, obviously, and it's growing, but if people are super positive and saying like you're the best, you're doing everything right, then I'm not going to look at what I could improve, because I'm being told if I'm being told by a
Right.
whole bunch of people that you're perfect the way you are and what you're doing,
Yes.
then I'm not going to think about, oh, maybe I should like reevaluate what I'm doing here or there. Like maybe I didn't do a good job, but I'm just getting all this noise saying everything is perfect. Like if you hand in a test and you don't get your score, and someone says you did a great job, and you find out you actually didn't do a good job, that it screws you up.
Yes. You
And
become
same thing,
insulated from actual real feedback.
yeah. And same thing with a hater. Like they're going out and attacking channels in the name of a different channel. What if that channel doesn't want that? Now it looks like the people who support you are these goons that go around and attack people, and then people will think, oh, your channel is like, oh, you just got these people going around attacking everyone. So they both are negative. They're both bad, and everyone should just keep a much more open mind and try and be a little more objective on the actual things going on. Like everyone's personalities are different, everyone's styles are different, their channels are, that kind of stuff's different, and not everyone likes every type of content, and well aware of that. But that doesn't mean full attack, right? Or that's just my take. It's like everyone should just take a step back. It's just we're cleaning cars here, people. Like we're not doing brain surgery. Like 30 miles from you is on fire. There's far more important things in the world than a spray
Totally.
sealant.
Totally.
Every summer BC lights on fire too, right? So I know what you guys are sort of going through.
Yep.
But
yeah, I'm not going through anything. It's just happening by me. I'm very safe and everything's fine. Yeah, your perspective.
What I mean?
There is a lot worse thing. No one cares what how durable a ceramic spray is when their house just burnt down with their car inside, right?
Yeah. So
but in our world, it's very important. In my world, it's very important, right? So how do you balance that? I think that's what you're trying to do on your channel, right? Of like create this balance of what you feel a YouTube channel should be, right?
Yeah, and one of the things I'm working on, which I tried to do in this last video, and I'm really going to work hard to incorporate it going forward. And a little apology to you because I didn't do this well in the video I did about your product, but is to try and be more constructive with my feedback to make sure that I'm saying like, hey, this one thing just doesn't work for me, and if you could improve that, then I would like this product more. And again, I would like the product more, not everybody.
Sure.
But I want to do that. I want to go forward now with like, if someone's watching and listening from one of those places, like, hey, this thing didn't work for me. And this, and I will try and show, like, I won't comment on anything I can't really show and prove, but the hydrophobics could be better, or maybe the application is too sticky. It's like, I just found that this was a little weaker compared to XYZ product or whatever, or, just in general, I find these products in general should behave better, and then sort of share that. But to not try and be like, oh, it sucks, and go on those crazy tangents. Like, be actually helpful with your review,
right?
And because there's a lot of things about like giving negative reviews, and I'm like, I'm a consumer, right? I'm not a professional detailer. I'm not a blender. I'm not a brand. I don't work in that industry. Not sharing findings, positive or negative, hurts consumers. Full stop. If you aren't sharing these experiences and making the statements of like, yes, grain of salt, my situation, blah, but if you aren't sharing that out to the public, that hurts consumers. And that's I'm very pro consumer. I'm very right to repair, like those types of topics that go on. I watch a whole lot of YouTube and a whole lot of genres, but that's something that's very important to me.
Because what's interesting about what you just said is if you just give your opinion and you don't go off on a crazy tangent. The one thing I started to realize, I had a conversation one time with Ian with Autofiber, and he saw one of the negative videos that was put out against my product. It wasn't your channel, but he saw one of them and he goes, "Oh, you know what? The guy was talking about like it was a negative thing, but I actually thought it was a positive thing.
Yeah.
Like in my world, it would have been positive." So he's like, it made me a little confused because what I was watching, I actually liked, but he was saying, he was talking about it in such a negative light. And it really kind of like made me think a little bit of like, whoa, sometimes just putting the information out there, right? Because we can't control everyone's environment. We can't control everyone's environment is so different, right?
Yeah.
So actually just putting the information out there, and because Ian was like, I actually, changed my outlook on this guy a little bit. Like I actually kind of thought he was a bit of a jerk because like I actually liked what I was seeing, but he was, in this negative light. And it was a big epiphany for me of like, whoa, instead of having such an opinion about it, if this guy would have just talked about it and said, hey, this may be good in some situations, this may be bad in some situations, and maybe use that opportunity to educate a little bit, his following may be bigger, whatever. And I was like, what? I never thought about it in that way.
And that's another issue with like it being on YouTube is that those huge reactions and those clickbait titles and all that stuff, they really try to incentivize your content to be very extreme, right? And I'm not doing that. And the other thing that I'm not doing, which a lot of channels do, and again, this is my situation that permits this, is that I'm not monetizing anything but AdSense. So I'm not doing any sponsored content. I won't use affiliate links. I will take free product, but that's the end of it. Like the product will arrive, what happens, what I say, what I do. That's, you get no say, you get no preview. That's my thing. Because it is a thing that happens. And I will say that sponsored content and affiliate links and all those things, they are not bad. But the detailing realm of YouTube is way behind the times when it comes to all the other parts of YouTube. Like, I don't know if you're very into computer hardware, but there's a channel called Gamers Nexus. And they roast brands left, right, center. Like they will, no problem, telling you exactly what's going on. And if they have a product in that's good, they'll let that product sponsor. And if that brand does something dumb or if their products are bad, they will stop sponsoring. Like that stuff happens. And the detailing area of YouTube, just, it's like they don't care if it's going on or they absolutely hate it. And like there's some people who don't even want like people to have free products. I've had a few messages, even I think one today, where they're like, getting a free product from a manufacturer is no good. And I'm like, there's an alternate side to this. There's a flip side to this, which I learned in the audio forums, which is called post-purchase justification, which is I spent a ton of money on this. I expect it to be good. Therefore, when I'm using it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's better. But it's, like the cables, they're not measurably better. Then if they're not measurably better, they're definitely not audible because you could pick up finer details and measurements than you could with your own ear. So there's things that people would do. They spend a lot of money on something and they try and justify their purchase by saying it's better. So there's like, if I'm getting it for free, I don't have that over me. But I also have the flip side. It's like I didn't have to buy it and the company was nice to send it to me. And there is a line to walk there. And it's I've only had like 3 products for free ever. Excluding like the refund you did, but and I think by the way, when you shipped me those other 2 products, I had to pay $60 worth of duty.
Oh my god,
it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
I get people from Canada that are like, oh dude, like I got an order returned and the guy just livid at me from Canada because he was gonna have to pay like some import tax or something. I'm like, dude, I don't control that, man. Like, okay, send it back. And I think I paid $50 to get his order shipped back to me, and I should have just paid the fee or the tax or whatever. But I'm like, dude, you may want to follow up with your government because I don't control that. Okay. Like I'm very sorry, but like, it's not a reflection of me, but
it's such a struggle. It's such a struggle. I had like a brand I reached out to and I was like, hey, if you guys want to send products, because I will reach out to a brand on occasion. I've only done it a couple of times, but I reached out to one and they're like, yeah. And then they actually were saying like, oh, would you like to try and beta test? like a new formula. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And my process would be like, okay, if I had a hand in developing this, I can't review it. Like that's my line. I won't review it. But if I can offer some feedback, then that's cool. Because I think every brand, every manufacturer should be looking at feedback.
100%.
Obviously look at the content and make sure they're doing it properly. But you should be leveraging this. This is free consulting for you guys. I don't know why they don't.
Definitely. Where it gets squirrely with the affiliate thing too. Just to touch on that real quick, because I've seen this happening, and I think it's at a detriment to the industry. Is that people will say, we've never paid that influencer. We have never paid him to review a product. And then you look and there's affiliate links. And then it's like, okay, you've never paid him to do the review, but has he made money off doing the review? And it's like, oh yeah, wait a second. He makes 20% of sales. And then you start looking at their channel and you're like, oh, right. You've never, they're right. You've never paid him to do a video.
Yeah.
Correct. However,
technically correct, right? The best kind of correct.
Not even technically, because you have paid him to do that video.
Yeah.
You just paid him after he did the video based on the sales that he generated for the video. Yeah. So of course he's incentivized.
I know.
Anyway,
and like for me,
that stuff pisses me off because I'm like, I know how the affiliate stuff goes. Yeah. I know, and that's when I talk about I know how the sausage was made. Yes, I physically see the sausage being made and packaged in the sleeve, but like I also know that guy was technically not paid before he did the video, but he was handsomely rewarded on the back end for doing that video, which is okay.
Yep.
I'm
the
like,
decision you make, you have to disclose it.
You're running a business, but you didn't disclose it. And then you're out there saying, we've never paid him $1 to do a video. And it's you're lying, man. You're lying.
I think the disclosure is actually I believe it's law, but it has to be in the description that you get a kickback from things purchased through the link.
Yes.
Now, if you go on to like an Amazon type kickback, like it could be huge because they can fill up their cart with a whole bunch of other things.
Sure.
All under that link, and then
which I'm totally fine with.
That
the honey scam,
which was then attacking all those, and I'm like, boy, glad I don't rely on those.
Ouch! Yeah, that honey scam was. I was watching did CoffeeZilla do a video on it or something? I was like,
Megalag did the initial, and then like everyone did a follow up.
Got it. Yeah.
But
which basically, I didn't even go that deep into it, but basically, Honey was like redirecting the affiliate or the cookies so that they got the money. Is that what it was?
They would so they're supposed to find coupons. And so they pop up at the very last step of the purchase process, right before you click buy. And even if they didn't find a coupon, they'd flip the code to them. But what also was happening is that brands could basically give Honey a commission to restrict the amount of coupons that they find and the value of those coupons. So you could pay them to keep those 30% off coupons hidden. Like you could keep it all the way down to whatever you wanted, but then they would make their commission. So that was the huge controversy. And apparently there's other parts coming up on this, which look super juicy. It's going to be a great watch, but yeah. So, I mean, affiliate links I don't touch.
the truth always, like, that's what I keep telling myself with this. We've never paid them, right? But then I know they're an affiliate. It's like the truth will eventually come out, right?
It always comes out.
It always comes out. And that's
what side of history do you want to be on?
Totally. And that's where I've really leaned into of like, okay, I could be more transparent. And that's my unfair advantage, right? I think, and that's what I think everyone's looking for is like, what is my unfair advantage? Where's my differentiator? I mean, call it whatever you want to call it, right? But I would like to long-term be on the right side of history. And that's why, I mean, case in point, I had no idea we were going to do a podcast. Honestly, I didn't even know who you were when you reached out via email. And then when you said Sheepstar, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is
this guy,
honeypot, this guy. But I'm like, wow. And I refunded your order and sent you a new bottle long before you had even reached out. But I'm like, that's, it takes time for the truth to come out. Just like you're saying, oh, my channel is small, but it's growing. It's like, yeah, because it takes time for the truth. Like, cheating always gets you there faster, right? Always.
I wouldn't call like the other avenues of monetization cheating. But I'm in a situation where I don't need the income. Now, let's put it as if I lose my job or something like that, then I'm going to have to take a hard look. Like the easier thing would just be stopping because I wouldn't have to buy any other pieces of material and products. But you know,
well, but that's the question I posed to you when we chatted before. It's like, what does start to happen when you either get, because I think this is what happens. Someone gets offered a big amount of money, right? And then they're like, man, that's life-changing, right? I cannot, whatever you do for work, it's like, oh, if I could not do that because I don't really like that anymore. I don't like detailing anymore. Detailing is hard. And a brand offered me more money than however much I make a year detailing. And all I got to do is do a podcast once a week for them, or I just got to tell them what I think or whatever, you know, and it's like, ah, man,
not a bad call.
It's not a bad call. And I don't blame anyone for doing that. Right. Nope. And so, but
it's
my question, like, what happens when it happens to you? No, you're fine.
I would say that it, like, transparency would be the only thing different is like, okay, if I'm going down this road, like, I'll be the first one you hear it from. I'd be like, I'm doing this now. See ya.
I think that you nailed it, right? Of like transparency. And that's where it always gets squirrely for some reason. And I've probably been guilty of this in the past too, but like, that's where it starts to get a little squirrely. Is like, why didn't they just say they didn't actually do that?
A lot of people will respect it. At least you had the decency to say something, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're wrong, like say I make a video about a product and I completely screw this thing up. Like I mess up the application, I don't read the ball, whatever it happens to be, I mess it up. A video released with the title of like, I was wrong. A, that's going to do well. B, people will respect the fact that you owned it, right? When you make a mistake, own the mistake and people will forgive you. Most of the people, 99% of the people, and I think this is something you said in one of your previous podcasts, but it was like, nobody wants to, like, carrying around hatred and stuff. It weighs on you.
It is heavy.
It's heavy. And I think a lot of people are just looking for that little bit of transparency, that little bit of like, yeah, you know, I buggered it up and just walk it back. Like I don't think I've buggered anything up. Like, you know, someone let me know. But
they will.
If I have, I'll go revisit it. But like I was looking into like doing these tests where I'm assigning like kind of a scorecard. Like I wanted to try and get some hard numbers that people could at least compare, because I'm a type of person where I love looking at that type of stuff. And I you know, I was thinking about like, okay, some of my products are very old. I should probably, you know, double check. So I grabbed a brand new bottle of the Turtle X ceramic spray sealant, the hybrid solutions one, and then I compared it against my very old one, and the new one was performing way better, like way better. I made a video about it. I was like, oh crap. Like now I have to think about, if I release videos of my back catalog of products, like redo the videos and give them these scorecards, because it's got to be fresh testing. I'll have to factor in the age of the products too. I'll have to say, if I can't get a data manufacturer, like some of them do, some of them don't, if I can't get that, I have to try and figure out when I purchased it. And like, this is from at least then, maybe 4 months plus if it's sitting on the shelf. So
kudos to Turtle Wax, because it could not necessarily be that it was sitting on the shelf and went bad, but it could be that they changed the formula.
That too.
Most brands go the opposite way. They usually don't make it better. They usually make it worse, but that could be
I don't know. Yeah,
you can see the complexity. It like gets really sticky. Yeah, it gets really hard.
My original one was from 2019, so I had one from 2024.
Oh, got it.
So it's a long time sitting in a garage. That it doesn't. My garage doesn't fluctuate too much in temperature, but like it gets down to about 15 up to about 30. So
yeah, could be enough of a difference. Yeah.
But like, there's so many factors. There's so many things you have to try and account for, and you're not going to get it all right. You're never going to get it all right. But as long as, like, if you make mistakes, if you know, maybe you don't need to make a video, but if someone comments like, hey man, you missed this step, and if it's not a major thing, you'd be like, oh crap, you know what, you're right, thanks. Sorry, going forward I won't do that, or going forward I'll fix this. Like one of the things that people say all the time is, I'll show sections, but I won't like put on the screen what products are where.
I just saw that when I was thumbing through the video. I'm like, dude, just take a Sharpie and write on there with an arrow. That's what I used to do, and it's so easy.
No. So my tests are blind. I don't write the names down.
Oh, that's what happened.
So it was more the real world updates where I'm showing the hood again, and I'm like, yeah, I remember where everything was put on the hood because I put it there, but no one else does. So I took a picture and I like put all the names on it, and I just insert it like randomly throughout the video. I'm like, by the way, this is where everything is.
Got it.
Because I was like, okay, yeah, that's real good feedback. Like I should remember
Sure.
that not everyone remembers where shit was.
And most people like thumb through it, you know, they don't very rarely sit there and watch the whole thing, right?
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it was definitely like, you know, just getting the feedback from people, and I like it when people give me that feedback. I want to know what you want to see, right? And if you don't tell me what you want to see, I have to guess.
Right.
So
yeah. So what's man, I think what we talked about on the phone that we were going to talk about, we really didn't even talk about, right? Because that was my concern. Is like, but we still got time.
Oh man,
what is what's I was gonna say what's next for your channel, but I think you kind of already summed that up. Of like
same but different.
Same but different. Just kind of honing it in, getting a little bit better, tightening up, or getting better with the shots, or describe like what's next for your channel.
I really want to buy a slider. I really want to buy a slider.
Okay.
It's just the thing where like the camera moves on it and like you can make it twist and stuff. They make such cool shots. I'm really into cinematography. I really like it, but I never got any of the gear. And like, because my DSLR was the we don't do video type, I just never explored any of those other options. But I want to get one. They're like $400 or $500, so I have to think about it. But I do want to get like better production value for sure. But my computer is not capable of handling full blown like video editing software. It will catch fire. So I sort of like in a little bit of limbo when it comes to like production quality type stuff. But
could you get one for your phone? I mean, I've shot so much stuff just on my phone. I even have a video guy.
I do film on my phone. Yeah, it's an iPhone 14 Pro. It's no slouch for video for what it is.
Yeah.
And it's also a phone. But I do mainly my channel sort of just watches what's going on, and then I do my take. Sort of
got it.
That's sort of been my recipe, is that I see what other people are doing and I see if I can find an angle or some topic or some product where I think I can find some unique take on it, and then I try and I'll put my flavor of it out there. And I've got a lot of positive feedback about people just thankful that there's a channel out there that doesn't have any ties or any strings on it, that it's the best of my abilities and there's nothing else in the way. And again, I'm not perfect, but that's been probably the biggest thing that I've been seeing, especially since I did my pan clean video where I started appearing in them, is everyone's like, oh, like someone gave me a super chat. They gave me money for being like, they said like finally a review that I actually trust. And they sent me money for it.
It's very
my advice, please don't send me money, donate it to a charity. Just don't super chat me.
That is one of the things too, that whether it's with Pan or with other brands that have like super loyal followings, it seems like I just had a comment and I responded to this. It was actually on my video Pans too. It was like, why all the hate? And I was like, since when is not agreeing with the consensus of everyone else? Since when is not agreeing with that or seeing something different and being objective? Since when is that hate? I'm like, I'm not hating on the product because it didn't perform well. Like, in what backwards world is that? In my test, it didn't perform well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I hate the product. No. I have my opinions on the guy. I'm not saying I even hate. I was like, I could, I'm pretty good at laying into people. Like I did not lay into anything in that video. It just didn't perform. I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying something opposite of what everyone else is saying. But why aren't you calling all those people fanboys?
And that I had a comment. So it's like, they said it looked like I was just trying to do a hit piece. I'm like, maybe that's what I was doing. Which wasn't. Maybe just everyone's artificially positive, right? It's either you're very negative or everything else is artificially positive. It 6 a dozen, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's and like personally, his product, it's nice to apply. It's very easy to use. It's got good chemical resistance. It smells good, but it's quite strong smelling, but it does smell nice. But yeah, I'm testing it on my hood real world right now, and I'm not seeing great results. And like when I filmed the footage, because I knew like that was a video that was going to get a lot of scrutiny. So I put on the hood next to the section as I was applying it, a temperature and humidity sensor. So people knew exactly what was going on. Like, this is the conditions. It's in a garage. It's going to stay in the garage overnight. Anything beyond that is unreasonable for a spray sealant.
100%. Right.
I'm knocking out as much as I can. Yes, my climate in the wintertime is going to be bad. But BC, specifically where I live, is not that bad of a winter. It's fairly mild most of the time. Yeah, like, this is my road spray conditions. You know, this is my situation. But yeah, like, you know, people want to say, like, you know, you're officially attacking somebody or going after people. It's like, no, man, like, you put a product out there and you come from especially that type of a background, expect people to test it, expect people to try it and review it and share it.
Totally.
Like, if you didn't think people are going to do that, you got other problems, I think.
Well, is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to talk about? I mean, this was super fun to me. I never expected to do this. I'm definitely going to title this something kind of clickbaity to get some views, because I
don't support the title if you've made it this far.
But I will say I'm going to make it a clickbaity title only because I think the information that you shared is really valuable. And so I want to get more eyeballs and more earballs on it. And so I think sometimes you got to have it be a little bit clickbaity. And it's also true. I mean, you were a hater,
I am a small channel. People are going to be like, what the hell is he talking to?
Yeah, no, but I think when you reached out and you kind of, you know, talked about what you wanted to talk about, or you shared what you wanted to talk about, and then I found out who you were, I was like, oh my gosh, we got to take advantage of this. But I don't care the size of people's channel. I interview a wide variety of people, and whether this video does good or not, it doesn't really matter to me. Obviously, I want to see it do good, but because that makes me feel good. But I think just putting out information, this video could pop in 3 years. In 2 years, you could have 1 million subscribers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I interviewed Brian and developed a relationship with him. It could not, right? But I think I just enjoy putting out good information, right?
Yeah,
and let that information do what it will, right?
Well, like, you know, even like talking, like, if you think about it, if you think about conversations and who you should be talking to, the people who should be talking are the people who disagree.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
The people who should talk together, who should be talking to one another, the people who have opposing viewpoints, because the goal should be to find a way to come to an agreement or come to a consensus where you can exist together. Right. I think that's how things go. And like, I don't have a crazy opposing viewpoint to anything that you do. I've actually really enjoyed your video podcast series. I am very much a video podcast person. I do not do audio podcasts,
which is so interesting to me.
I like seeing people's faces. I like seeing their face. And I want to see the facial expression. It works more for me. And I've really enjoyed the last series you've been doing here. They've all been really great. I think I've
enjoyed doing them. Video, I'm an audio only kind of podcast person, and so when it came to doing video and me kind of seeing that, like, I mean, I've been doing podcasts I was the first detailing podcast, right? And so to see people doing video podcasts and getting traction, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. It does bring in a whole new element of recording. But I think when I saw it getting traction, I'm like, because I was in that mode of like, man, I can't test products anymore of other brands, mainly because I don't want to give them any free publicity. I've done that forever. Like, I don't want to, you know, I got paid to do that. I did it for free for a long time, but I see how much traction you can give a brand, both negative and positively, talking about it. And I'm like, I'm just not interested in, you know, I pay a guy to do my videos now, so I got an expense to that. And like, if I'm going to go through all that effort to think of a video idea, I'm going to do it on my own brand. So I got to figure out something else. I'm like, I love podcasting. It's my favorite medium. I'm very transparent about that. I'm like, I love talking to people. I'm like, I guess I'll try video podcasts. And then it started to work. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a home run, because I love doing this. It's so easy for me. And then I could just do other shorts or videos on my own brand. And I'm like, then it's resonating with people. I'm like, I hit the jackpot, man. I think I hit the freaking jackpot.
Yeah, and like, video podcasts are blowing up in every genre. It's not just detailing. Like
why do you think that is?
People want to watch. People want to see more of the people that they like. I think, you know, if you like a certain actor, you're going to want to watch their movies, right? So if you like a certain personality, a certain character, you want to see them, I think. And again, for me, I like seeing their facial expression and seeing their interaction, because you can read a lot more into what they're trying to say. And yeah, for me, that's just the way I prefer doing it. I like sitting down and just
Interesting.
being entertained. But
Mhm.
yeah, but I thank you for doing this. Obviously, it could be a huge real help to my channel for going on
I hope it
a
is.
very big channel. I've seen your channel's been growing, like in the last like 2 weeks, it's jumped up a lot. So
The video
I think
podcast,
you're on.
man.
I think you're onto it, buddy. I think you got
Yeah.
it.
And I really do hope, like to be transparent with everyone, Brian did not like my product. I think the video's still up, right? Like,
I don't
and
delete videos.
so the video's still up. He was very bullish on that. He didn't like it and wasn't getting a good result. I refunded his order, sent him a new bottle when I switched it to Teva Shell. I think
You
I
sent me
stopped
your
watching
acid wheel
videos.
cleaner as
Okay.
well.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Your acid cleaner. I haven't tested it because my water is so soft and mineral free. I
Got it.
genuinely don't have a use, but I'll try it on a set of wheels coming up. I just haven't detailed much. I detail like maybe 4 to 6 cars a year. So
Got
it's
it.
really not something I get regular content out of. And when I'm doing it, I don't have the time to like film it as well. Still got a
It
kid.
takes
And
so
then
much time to
so much time.
film a detail. It's insane.
Also,
So
my
yeah.
driveway is like 6 inches on either side of the tire wide with a curb, and my garage is 10 feet wide. So like I'll be like, oh, I'm polishing a car with it like
Yeah.
stuffed into my face. And, like I can't
Probably
do that.
couldn't even
I
get the
can't.
tripod at the right angle. Yeah, it's
No,
a nightmare.
doesn't work.
But I hope people will, and I will leave a link below for your channel so if people want to check it out.
Cool.
I hope that it does help your channel. That'd
Yeah.
be really cool too.
Subscribe
So
if you want to or not. That's cool. I hate doing that.
I know it's a and I always anyway, we'll end it here and then we can
Right.
chit chat too. But thanks,
Cool.
man. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.